important session because, as was said by Charles, franchising has been long a big part of the entrepreneurial journey of black people, but for the most part, back in the day, we talked about thinking primarily about fast food or large restaurant chains, and we were looking to buy them, which is legit. It's a great way to get into entrepreneurship, especially if you're less experienced or you want a proven business model. What's happening now is there's an opportunity, we reached a stage in black entrepreneurship where we can scale businesses by franchising our own companies to other buyers. And what we have here is two great people to have that conversation. All the way to my far left, we have my friend, I can call him my friend, fellow health hero, fitness hero, Dr. Kelvin Brown, founder and CEO of Precision Weight Loss Center right here in Atlanta. And we have his franchisee who bought a franchise from him, Tara Habrowski-Blackman, medical doctor in Tampa, who brought Precision Health as a franchise to expand her business journey. So what we're going to talk about is both sides of it. Obviously, scaling your business, being able to franchise your business as a business owner to other people to expand your access to different markets is a way to grow your business, but franchising still is a great way to identify businesses with a proven model, relatively predictable revenue projections, so you can kind of not start out cold as an entrepreneur, but start out with a proven business model. So first, I want to start with your customer, really, your client. So, Dr. Blackman, you're a medical doctor, you obviously have built a career. What made you think, one, that you wanted to go take an entrepreneurial track, and two, what made you think buying a franchise was the way to go?
So, I call it my 9 to 5. So my 9 to 5, I'm an advanced heart failure and transplant cardiologist. So it's very, very stressful.
Yes.
So I wanted something that I was starting to feel the burnout. Mm-hmm. So I wanted something, obviously, all I know how to do is be a doctor. I just got to be very honest. And so I wanted something that was going to be equally as gratifying, but a lot less stressful.
Right.
And I equate it to, I didn't know I wanted to be married until I met the man that I married, right?
Right.
I didn't know I wanted a franchise until I met the person that I wanted to franchise with. Right. So that was kind of my impetus to go after. I knew the type of person he was, and I knew his business practices, and I had known him for, 10 years. So this is not a new relationship.
So you bring up a very important point early on when someone wants to get to purchase a franchise. You're not just buying a business idea, or you're buying a system and a way of doing business.
Absolutely.
That if you start in your own business, you kind of can make it up as you go along. In this case, for better or for worse, if you pick the wrong franchise, you're doing business. You're saying, I'm going to do business in this way to get this predictable result, and that's what you're actually selling. You're saying you're not just selling a business. You're saying if you do it this way, this is the result you're going to get. So talk to me about the value proposition that you present to potential franchisees who say, hey, I want to franchise a precision health business.
Yeah, when you offer a franchise, you have to offer, like you said, value. And it's different things that you offer. Money is one thing, the system is another thing. One's brand, their name is another thing. And then your training mechanism, the people that you're dealing with is huge. Who you go into business with is very valuable. So what we had was a proven model in a very complex and growing industry, right? Weight loss, weight management is huge. It's only growing, especially with all the products and medications and so forth coming out. And so we've been around. We've had to pivot several times, been through different economic climates, environments, and she saw this firsthand, she and her sister. So what we offered was a model that works, a model that generates income. And for anybody looking for a franchise, that's one of the most important things you look for. You can like all the other things and so forth, but is it going to be around? Is it going to be profitable? Right. Is it going to be worth your while to invest in it? And so she saw firsthand we have multiple locations. Matter of fact, when she decided In 2023, we had just built 3 locations. So we had something that was working, something that was reproducible as well. And not only do you invest, what's the turnaround time in both getting your business up and running, because you want to get up and running and generate income, right? And then what will that income be? And so we had a reproducible model that we rolled out 3 offices in a climate that was conducive to repeating that in 24, 25, and 26. And what we know about weight management is not going anywhere, right? So that's one of the things that we offer.
You know, Dr. Blackman, you used the analogy of finding the right partner, but it's an apt analogy because the match between franchisor and franchisee is also a match of the kind of business you want to run and why you want to run it. Franchising is not great for absentee operators across the industry. There's exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, this is not something you buy and set it and forget it.
Exactly.
So you got to say, I want to live this life. It's a life when you're part of a franchise system. What strikes me about both of you, and you talked about the stress of being a doctor. I have doctor friends who are both on the fitness side as well as the traditional medical side, who talk about wanting to be a part of the solution when so much of medicine today is just trying to catch people at the end and keep them alive, and how stressful that could be emotionally, physically, and otherwise. So to me, that's one of the offerings of what Precision Health offers, which is here's a chance to be on the solution side, the preventive side of the equation when so much of medicine is about the other side. How did that factor into your saying this? I have this stressful career that I invested a lot of time and money to do, and that's still my career, but I want to get onto a side that is not only not stressful, but also maybe even build you up to some degree and feel like you're making some progress.
I think the turning point for me was so it was exactly what you said. So I am the cardiologist in the sense that when they don't know what to do with their patients anymore, then they send them to me. So I deal with end-stage heart failure. The problem was, though, I was starting to see patients that were younger than me. I was like, that's heavy. Right. That is very heavy. And so, as you said, if I can start on this side and say, hey, one of the biggest risk factors for cardiovascular disease is obesity, right? Well, let me start over here. I would much rather see you in Precision Health Tampa Bay than in my advanced heart failure and transplant clinic. Right. So that was, like I said, that was the turning point for me. And I don't know if it was God, I don't know what it was, but we had just started, we were on the phone one day and I was like, why don't you come to Florida? And he was like, well, why don't you bring, you know? Right. And it was like, wait, why don't I? Right. You know, and it was just that kind of aha moment that we had just on a casual conversation on the telephone.
Right. The reason why this is important in terms of the industry that you both represent is that, again, when we think, still in most communities, when we think franchising, we're thinking big restaurant chains. Right. But the truth is, there's a lot more opportunity now in franchising in general because almost every sector has a franchisable solution, whether you're talking about, in this case, healthcare, sanitation, whether it's corporate or personal. There's all these different franchise units at different price points. And that's why this is a great opportunity to explore, even if you're already in an established career. If you're in tech, there's some kind of franchise for people with tech skills and a tech background. There's franchisable opportunities in every industry for anybody that wants to transition to that. And I think it's important for you to explore that, even if you're not somebody who's into the food industry or into healthcare. Let's get into the nuts and bolts, though, because the other side of franchising, it is a franchise. It is a form of business that has rules and regulations in terms of what you can sell, what you have to commit to her, what you have to show to her. There's a franchise offering circular, for example. Talk to me about what you had to do to be prepared to franchise, and then what you had to review to decide, from a business standpoint, not just an emotional standpoint, this is something I need to buy into, that I want to buy into.
Yeah. I'll answer that by offering a transition, what he just discussed with regard to value and what we do with regard to prevention rather than treatment. And that'll be the segue into how I prepare to sell a franchise and meet the regulations and attract a buyer.
Right.
When you open a business, a good business is something that offers value that people are willing to pay for.
Absolutely.
And what we have and what we offer is a solution, the prevention. And a lot of people value that, right? We all value our health. And fortunately, that is becoming more and more valuable to us each and every day, especially in social media and with our families and being around and really enjoying life and increasing our wealth and so forth. And so when I created or founded Precision Health, it kind of amazed me going from because my background is as a general surgeon, requiring or counting or depending on insurance to pay, but I had a product, a service that people were willing to forget about their insurance cards in their purses or their wallets, and they paid cash or went to their credit cards. When I saw that, I knew that I was offering something valuable, and they kept doing that, and they have continued to do that, and that was the opportunity that I could bring as a valuable franchise. With that said, I still had to have necessary documents, necessary history, and if you're looking for a franchise, my advice would be look for for a company that's been around, not something that's just popped up, been around for a year, really haven't weathered the storms, really haven't pivoted, really haven't gone through the solutions.
Or developed systems that have been tested.
Absolutely.
And can be repeated.
And reproduced.
And
it can be
reproduced. You're buying a system more than you're buying a business.
Exactly. And you're buying not only a system, but you're buying the leadership behind that system that can manage that system, that can navigate that system through both good and bad times. So we offered that. We got documents in place. And we weren't looking to franchise at the moment. She's absolutely accurate. She reached out to me like in December of last year and said, come to Florida. And we had just opened 3 locations here in Atlanta. And I was like, let this go continue. You open one in Florida.
Right.
And we can talk about creating leverage that way to extend your market and extend a whole bunch of things that, because there's different ways or different reasons to sell franchises, right? But anyway, we had the documents ready, we had the system ready, we had vendors ready, we had everything ready. It was just ready, plug and play. And she reached out in December and she was up and running and cutting ribbons in April. So we went through a process because we knew what we were doing. And so that's what we offered. And so how it starts is that once someone reaches out to you or you reach out to someone, you have to get to know them. Is this going to be serious or not? You don't want to waste your time. What type of person are you dealing with? What type of franchisee or business you're dealing with? Where each person lie with regard to their mindset. Is this worth the stress, worth the investment of time and money and so forth? So that's the initial conversation. After that, you start talking about applications, seeing what's your capital, what do you want to do, how big is your vision? Are we talking about one location, one city, multiple regions, areas, and so forth? So is this worth the time to get into, and do you know the person? Again, we started out, like she said, I knew her. She knows about medicine, which is a plus, but we have a system that we can deal with anybody who has a business mind and who can access someone with medical personnel. So anyway.
So your point is you don't necessarily have to be a medical professional to own this franchise.
No, you just have to be an entrepreneur and a good business person. And she was an entrepreneur, business person with the bonus of being a medical professional and a darn good one. So anyway, that's one of the things that you reach out initially, and then you start the paperwork, maybe NDAs, applications, and then a franchise disclosure document,
yes,
which is the legal document that you wanted me to answer to. And that's a lengthy one. And that's an investment from a franchisor standpoint, that you invest with the legal team, and it's like 300 plus pages that she experienced and had to research and
361.
361.
361. Yeah.
So that's the document there, and then once she reviews that, and within that document is the franchise agreement, along with other agreements that you execute, and then negotiation and so forth to go from there.
Now, Dr. Blackman, you're still early on your journey in this area of entrepreneurship and your journey as a medical professional, now entrepreneur as well. What advice would you give to someone who is considering buying a franchise based on your experience, and almost more importantly, now that you have it and you're operationally integrating this into what you do every day? Because it's not like your former career went away.
Oh no, it did not go away.
So talk about what it means to own and run this business that's compatible with your career, but may demand some different things of you. Especially if down the line, maybe you decide I'm going to have 5 franchises in Florida, and I'm going to focus on running that and hiring professionals to do the medical side for me.
Absolutely. So I think, especially in the decision we'll start there. So the decision, hey, this is what I want to do, you really have to use your network. So by the grace of God, my sister's an attorney, my brother's a financial analyst. So I was like,
can I get adopted into your family?
I was like, I need some free help, because I'm already, I had a little fund, I was like, okay, this is I got to leave Frank fund, or I got to leave my job fund. And since I love my husband, I wasn't leaving him. So, and I love my job too, so I wasn't leaving that either. So I was like, okay, so I have this money here that can either sit here and do nothing, right? Or I have the ability to turn it into something that's mine, something that belonged to me. So now, fast forward, we went through all the documents, signed all the paperwork. Now we're here. So the one thing, and Dr. Brown will tell you he's gotten several emails from me, several text messages. He's a little tardy on returning them sometimes, but that's okay. But what we have to understand, I think, is Charlemagne the God that says the craziest people come from the Bronx and all of the state of Florida. So that is very true. That is very true. So what I understood was that what maybe was going to work in Atlanta maybe was not going to work in Florida. And so the key point, I think maybe you said and he said, was the pivoting. Like, how can we, yes, we have a foundation, we have a model. That may not work for every market. So I think him being open and listening to ideas and listening to me say, well, maybe we need to, come back to this. Maybe we need to do some telehealth here. Maybe I need to, do more concierge. Like maybe, what? Right. So now go. Well,
you're making a great point, because if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a successful entrepreneur, and I sell my business, I'm done when I get paid and you're off on your own. When you sell a franchise to a franchisee, that's when your work begins, because the person that bought your franchise has to be supported and serviced. And it's important for entrepreneurs who decide they want to franchise their idea to understand now you have the people in your network of franchisees that you have to provide service to. Absolutely. In order to make their franchise profitable and worthwhile. You can't say, well, good, thank you for buying. Right. Good luck down there in Tampa.
And that's what he's done.
Yeah, so talk about the need and the importance of the franchisor recognizing that they're now providing a different set of client services, if you will, for the people who have bought into their system.
Yeah, when you sell a franchise, it's actually a marriage. And that's why I say very early on, you have to understand who you're getting into that marriage with. And you have to have the vision of, like, what are you trying to do with that relationship, and look at it long term. At the same time, making changes, dealing with things day to day. It's just like I said, it's just like a relationship. And you want that relationship to be successful. Absolutely. You get into a relationship to be successful, not to end, and for the right reasons. You can't get into a relationship just because of money. It has to have some other values and reasons to it, if you can look at it and use that analogy. So one of my biggest objectives, and I signed on to this when I agreed to sell the franchise, was to make her very successful. And so that's what you want. And So that's what we're going to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone who's looking to buy a franchise and going down this path, based on what you've experienced so far?
To reiterate, God, being a business owner, you can't do it for just the money. Like, I think that would be the worst thing to do. So it would honestly be, find something you're passionate about, find something that, for me, I work 7 a to 7 p.m., and then I go over to the office to see what my nurse practitioner has done. So my day is 16 hours sometimes, you know what I mean? So this is not something that, and believe me, there are other things you can make money on, that don't require 16 hours a day. But if that's I don't get tired in that sense, and I don't feel the burnout, because this is something that I feel like I was called to do. And I'm doing it with someone that, again, I'll work all day. This is somebody that you ask me to do something, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Same with my husband. I saw his entrepreneurial, spirit, he owns restaurants in Detroit. So, that kind of rubbed off on me. So I would say, and believe me, he doesn't do it for the money, because it's the number of things that he has to deal with, the different personalities and things like that. You couldn't pay me to deal with.
I would say the franchise industry and owning a franchise in general, again, you have to be fully present. It's not the kind of business you kind of own and you run, but you're not really engaged in it.
No,
especially if you're going to grow the business.
Absolutely.
And speaking of growing the business, the reason why this is such an important industry, and why, Dr. Brown, what you're doing is important, because we keep talking about we need to scale Black-owned businesses. We need to scale Black-owned businesses. And we already talked about the challenges of getting the capital investment to do it, and the challenges of acquiring other businesses. But franchising and being able to identify great franchisees to help you enter new markets and grow your brand to a national brand it is a big part, or at least a big way to grow scalable businesses, because she's creating jobs where she is. She has multiple franchises, she's creating jobs, but the Precision Health brand now is a multi-state brand. What would you say is your vision, if you could outline it now, for what you want to see happen with Precision Health as a franchised weight loss franchise brand? You want to be regional, you might want to see national? Where are you headed?
Well, my whole goal is always, to remain purpose-driven and true to myself and what I'm here for. And it's always about impact. And again, what you're discussing that I like so much is leverage. Leverage, leverage, leverage. And what I learned early on is that leverage can be used for several things: for wealth, being a surgeon, like I said, and for anybody in the room, just to plant a seed, we can all make a certain amount of money as an individual. But what I found is that you can create your leverage 6 to 1 or greater, then you can start building wealth. So if we can start having 6 of us, or 6 precisions, or whatever, then you're just talking about the wealth component, the money component. But more than the wealth is the impact. And so over the past 14 or whatever years, I founded Precision in 2008, so 16 years, I've treated thousands of people nationwide. But again, through Precision, and answer your question, this is an opportunity to extend the touch and have people be touched and have that long-term relationship with people like Dr. Blackman and so forth. So to answer your question, if it comes, I'm not seeking it, but if the opportunity is there to grow it and have that impact long-term and have physical locations along with the virtual locations, then great, because I want to help as many people as possible get healthier. And with us being in our community, we can determine where those locations are to target that attention. And that's one of the things I'm happiest about. When I started this and I created the first location in Southwest Atlanta, Camp Creek Marketplace near the airport, they didn't have anything like this over there, and you still won't find a Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, or nothing like that for the people over in that area. So I could make that determination and open a space in those areas and address healthcare disparities. So to answer your question, my biggest picture is to continue to address the bigger problem, and that's healthcare disparities, through a solution that addresses overweight and obesity, which is the underlying cause for many of our problems in our community from a health standpoint.
Is that whole purpose-driven mindset is what bonded me and Dr. Brown. We do an event, we've done 2 of them so far, called the Black Enterprise Health is Wealth Weekend. We did one here in Atlanta that you couldn't do, but we did it in Nashville. And this whole idea of the health space, the health equity space, and us getting on the solution side of the agenda is so important. I would imagine, Dr. Blackman, that's a big reason why you do what you do.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
Listen, we're about to go into Q&A, as you've heard all day. We really want questions. Questions. We're saying 2 questions, but the truth is, if we get real questions, we can probably get 4 questions in, because we don't burn up too much time. So I don't know who has the mic, but if anybody has any questions about either buying a franchise, or maybe they have a business they think might be franchisable, this is a great panel to get some intellectual capital from. Name, question, don't give up the mic.
No, I'm not going to do nothing like that. All right, so I'm Terrell Harrell. I own Tied Up Studios. We are the only Black-owned audiobook production company.
What kind of company? I'm sorry.
Audiobook production.
Okay.
For the big 5 publishers on the planet of Earth, right? So I see when I started this 5-6 years ago, my vision was to not be the only one, right? So we have a system, we're tweaking it as we've been growing, but what would you say was like either the best advice you got from outside sources as far as how to structure or how to systematize? So I know how to systematize my business, but like systematizing, growing, or like letting other people proliferate that business and having franchises.
That's a great question. If I can paraphrase it for you. There's one thing to establish the system. It's another thing to come up with a plan to market the system to find the right franchisees for your system. What kind of advice would you give if you have a system, you want a franchise, but to get the word out to the right people who might want to buy the franchise?
Well, there's a couple of things there. First, you got to get your procedures all standardized, number 1. Make sure that's standardized. Number 2, the best advice was really the franchise disclosure document, getting that. That's the biggest investment, making sure that you meet the regulations, do it right, and have that ready already. Because when people reach out to you, and if you're good and you have a valuable business, people will ask you, can I buy it? Can I sell it? And we were so good, people would come into my offices and say, I know you make money. I'm out here in the parking lot counting the cars and the people coming into your business. And so they were like, can I buy one? And and I said no. But when they come, but when they come and they say, hey, let's open in Florida, and I say, you open it in Florida. Well, I was ready, right? Because when they're ready, you need to be ready. And not wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks until the legal team produce that document, right? And then you have to know who you want to get into that marriage with to attract the right people and not say yes to anybody, right? And so as soon as, and if you're reaching out to physicians, well, reach out to, medical professionals, physicians, and so forth, and it may be something different in audio, books and so forth. So anyway, you got to know your target audience and why. And that's the most thing. You don't want to waste time because you're still managing your business, and you don't want to get distracted from that because that'll take away from the value, the capital, and add stress to your life. And that's one of the biggest things I learned. I would not let anything, including her, stress me out more than necessary. You have to protect your stress and your peace.
I'm team no stress too.
That's right.
And you are
Absolutely.
too, because that's why you bought the franchise. Do not stress me out. Do we have another question? Yeah, we have one here.
Thank you, twins. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this panel. My name is Tasha McCaskill, founder of Black Girls in Media. We are a community. We help source talent for women in the media industry. So my question was kind of answered in what was just asked. But I guess I would say, so just some backstory. I have a lot of people supporting our mission who want to expand in different cities and just really be an ambassador for Black Girls in Media, right? Is it the standard of procedures that you mentioned and those kind of processes that help relieve that anxiety of like, what is this franchise doing in this city? Like, are they maintaining the vision, the morals? Like, do you have some kind of tracking system some kind of insurance, I guess?
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and that's very important. And every industry is different, right? And what you do is quite different, and you'll measure the metrics and see the performance based off of whatever social media, whatever it is that you do. With our system, we worked it out with our system where I can control everything. I can see everything from a distance. And so that's in place. So I mean, she got a better me. 10 years ago, I had to be very on top of things, and that's part of the stress. And you have to identify people with integrity that will take your brand, what you're doing, and you trust them with it. If you cannot trust them, I promise you, I mean, you're gonna be stressed out. Are they doing the right thing in Florida? Are they doing the right thing in California? Whatever, and you really don't, you wanna avoid that. So get the right person, have the right procedures in place, and have whatever system in your industry in place where you can monitor, measure, and make sure they're doing it right. Accounting, whatever it is you're doing, make sure the numbers are right, everything, and check it from time to time, but have someone else check it even closer. Do the microscopic work while you look at it from a macro standpoint, and with the vision, with the standard operating procedures and so forth. So have your system in place where you can have peace of mind and you can look at everything as specific or as general as possible. And that's what we have in place.
Yeah, it's important to remember to underscore this whole thing as we kind of run out of time. If you're selling a franchise, you're operating a system now, or selling franchises. And you do have to have mechanisms in place. Now, the franchise buyer is making a certain commitment, legal commitment, to how they're going to run the franchise. And then, obviously, you have a commitment to her as a franchisor. And there are agreements in place about what you are to do under this brand and what you're not to do. But you're managing a system. And so, again, that's why you can't just sell it and hope they're doing the right thing in California.
And that's why the agreement is 361 pages.
Right, exactly. It's a legal document and all that implies. Listen, please give a round of applause to Dr. Kevin Brown and Dr. Tara Habrowski-Blackman.